What is going on, everyone? Happy Friday. Big show today. Trading Trends, ETF edition, all-time high edition. Going to be covering some great stuff today. Some crypto, some Asia, some US dollar. A lot of things happened today. Obviously, we had a catalyst event today with Jerome Powell at Jackson Hole. And boy, did the market love what he had to say. And I really do mean love what he had to say. I would not fade the move. I know what I said yesterday, about the market probably being frustrating for 2 weeks, but we did have a catalyst event today, of course, and we had to pay attention to that. And then we said, Powell always, of course, has a lot of backing what he says. And this is all leading up to, of course, what happened. You see home builders rip today and such. The Fed is likely to cut next month. And we had been, anticipating that, and the market was buying ahead of this, honestly. So let us get into the doc. A lot of things happened today. We're going to recap the day, the week, a historic week, and the best trades of the year. And I didn't make this the crypto show, and it won't be. But at the end, when we go over year-over-year returns, there are some spaces that you must be in, and I think you know what I'm talking about. All right, so here we go. New all-time highs. I had to reduce the font because there's just so much strength today. Some had outsized sigma or standard deviation moves. Other things just kind of bounced along higher. But today, Ethereum, regional banks, and value, I'm thinking Russell was what showed up there, exploded higher. We'll take a look at the move here after the Powell speech. While volatility, the US dollar, and natural gas got absolutely hammered. Multiple standard deviation moves for those. And new all-time highs for, get ready for it, XLF, which is financials, the equal weight stocks, which is a great thing to see. That RSP is equal weight ETF. So if you had every stock in the S&P 500 divided equally, that hit an all-time high. So it's not just 7 stocks, as skeptical as you want to be. ETHA, so that is the European and growth markets. ETHA, Ethereum, which has a lot of growing ETF volume, does the Ethereum ETF. We're going to take a look at that because I think you have to. And the Dow ETF, new all-time highs. The Qs didn't do it. We were chasing those coattails. They had been doing it the other day. And then this week, when you really step back, really characterized by a big 10% gain in Ethereum and a big 7% decline in volatility through the proxy of and natural gas. Sorry, Chris, if you were watching, you're talking about nat gas yesterday. Not like saying stuff that hit 52-week bottoms. Today was a new all-time high, all-time low, for UNG. So an absolutely amazing move. Also an all-time low for VXX, which is why I was saying folks in the market really loved what Powell had to say. I would not be fading this move. We'll take a look at the chart and what it all means. And there's so much to cover. Let's all that. It's been a big day. I love the action on the candle 2 days ago. We'll take a look at it. That was a really strong candle. Buyers really stepped in aggressively 2 days ago, and we want to see. I know Donovan, if you're watching from FinTwit, and usually when you see a hammer like that, you have a good thrust the next 3 days because they put their line in the sand, as it were. But first off, let's get to the big move. SPY up 1.5%. Monster move today. Tesla up 6%. We said that 320 line was a big mark for it. If you've been a little bit antsy and look for stuff to buy, Tesla would have rewarded. It's a nice buy. Honestly, every stock I'm looking at here is really holding multiple moving averages on the multiple lookbacks. Even Apple at this point, as it's holding, that was up a percent today to 220. Nvidia up 1.7. The Q's up 1.5%. Palantir, a big falling from grace, but still an absolutely amazing stock. Russell up 3.9. We'll take a look at a very similar ETF to that. Google ripped 3%. Apple, we just mentioned, up 1. Meta up 2. Amazon up 3. AMD up 2.5. MicroStrategy's up 6 behind the rip in crypto. Intel up 5.5. Robinhood continues. I said it wouldn't chase it, but it's got momentum up 3%. And then IBIT, of course, up 4. UNH up 1. In terms of the intraday action, so the speech, if you weren't watching, was early this morning. This huge bar here at 10 o'clock, basically saying that he sees the economy, the labor market slowing down, not looking too great, and that means the Fed might have to rates. So bad news is, basically interpreted as, rates will go lower next month by about probably 25 bips, and maybe we get another. The way they traded today was standing room only to buy this market. 5 a.m. was when the bullishness started. 6:38, and boy, oh boy, highs. The all-time high was actually struck this morning, 11:30 a.m. Eastern time at nearly 647. I had been, I'm getting a, hold on, connection warning. Un momento, por favor. Test, test. Can anyone see me? If you could just put something in the chat. I got it. Oh, okay, looks like we're back on. All right. So, okay, back to this. So they bid it up. The highs came at 11:30 a.m. at 646 half. And then really some impressive trading. We never took out. Thank you, Caleb. So we really did not take out further highs after that. Superb trading. You see VWAP here at 644.23. It came a little bit in danger of trading below that, very near the 3:30 p.m. hour, but it didn't happen. Percent with really monster buying and really a nice surge in volume. They wanted to go long into the weekend. So as look at this candle, this is what I'm talking about. The hammer on the 20th, 2 days ago, love action there at the 20-day moving average, bullishness. You see that the market really has really got its legs underneath it since mid-May. And you really, any way you can look at it, I'm doing that through RSI trading above 50, days hold above 200-day moving average. The incline on the 200-day moving average, there's lots of ways you can see it when, this market really got healthy when you broke out of this rectangle. And really, if you wanted the further breakout when this market really wasn't doing anything, and this is when SMH was finally hitting all-time highs and such, it was end of June. This was really, if you were a lazy, kind of a person, you just said, I'll buy 615, the all-time high breakout, that would have rewarded you here. We're at 645, up 30 points or about, 5%. Not bad for, what I just say, 2 months hold in a very, all-time high market. But one thing we will say, divergence here, we're at all-time highs. We're not outside the upper Bollinger Band, but you're all-time highs in terms of price, and the RSI is not even 64. I don't love that. So obviously they loved what Powell had to say. I would not fade the move. We closed very near the highs, but I'm not going to say that we're done seeing the mark of, 637, something thereabouts. That's, 637 is 8 points or 1.5% or so away. So this market, honestly, what Powell said is essentially nothing stops this train. And to me, a double confirmer on that is all-time lows in VXX and all-time highs in SPY. You're getting new highs in Africa. There's a lot of money to go around, and you have to be invested. I would tell my enemy, same thing as 2 years ago, to be a Cowboys fan. No, number one. But number two, to be in cash. It just seems silly. So the calendar in terms of the bullish or the bearish distribution phase, I had ending on the 4th, but obviously a huge tide in the waves today make us try to get closer to 650. I had been saying in September, and I said, oh, maybe that's a little bit too long. And, we come within 1% of it today. So markets absolutely don't have to listen to what I have to say. My kids barely do. But no, they do. That's not true. But probably better than I did with my folks. But I just don't think we're done visiting the 637 region. So look for potentially, I don't even want to call it choppiness because we're all-time highs. But those to me are your risk levels. I think we are probably going to visit 635 to 640 region. Ooh, boogeyman in the next 2 weeks or so. I personally wouldn't chase it up here. That's all. But I would not be surprised if you do, given this candle. And then again, warning sign of that bearish divergence, not even reaching 65. So mixed signals, but overall, obviously price is gospel and God, and that's all-time highs, and that's all that matters. Okay, a lot of stuff moved today. Let's get into it. If you like things that move, I think you might. Or it's the Ethereum ETF. This is the iShares. We're going to look at the, I believe. Let me see if I do. No, it's all ETHA. This is the more liquid one. There's ETHE, ETHE, which is run by Grayscale. This one has more volume, and I believe I'm not positive on the super liquidity of the options. But we'll take a look at this. This is also I'll tease it, but this is now our we're including this on a top 3 year-over-year trades because this thing is absolutely ballooned. It has enough volume in it, and it's just an absolute monster. We're talking about it today because it's up 14.5% today. This is not obviously a 1 year. It's Ethereum, for goodness sakes. But this thing popped 14% today. So they heard Powell speak, and they said, wow, let's buy Ethereum. Let's buy value. Ethereum is value. Regional banks, there's a value in regional banks, right? And you go into your regional bank and opening a deposit. and doing that instead of just calling, an AI hotline talking to you on the phone. So there's value in that. There's value in Ethereum. There's value in the Russell. We'll get to it. Today, up 14.5%. Also, thing you can wake up on Monday morning and it's down, 12%, easy squeezy. But obviously, an amazing looking candle. That is time high. This thing has been trading absolutely stupendous since about Cinco de Mayo, $15. Even if you play this in the form of the ETF, you caught a double, let alone in the options. The actual low for this correlated with the SPA US low at $11 today. You were piercing nearly 37. The next 2 weeks, I personally just wouldn't chase this. Like I said, I still see 31 in the cards. And for me, that would be an absolute solid entry point. That's what you want to do. When stuff coils like an okay low, we said that setting up, get into it. I like it. The thing was up 7% today. We call things out when there's, easy or, probabilities to your side, kind of like blackjack, right? Hitting on, where you're supposed to hit and, not when you're not. I'm tired. It's been a long week. So Ethereum, to me, I personally just want to chase. I think 31's potentially in the cards, and then you should get in hard. Today, Ethereum, a massive day. It's been a massive year and a massive week. Ethereum, honestly, is the talk of the town. I know the market cap is not huge, but we're talking about this today because it's a new all-time high with SPY, a 14.5% today. This your chart, as well as it's been the leader of this week, up 10%. I'm going back 5-day look back, and it is number 2 year over year. So this thing was an easy catch up. Right once you saw this Ethereum, by the way, basing, there was no way, just fundamentally speaking, that Bitcoin was going to hold 100K for being its new norm, as it were, its new floor, and that Ethereum was going to struggle below its 1 year 50% Fibonacci retracement, which was like under $3,600. That was an easy. Actually, I think it was less than that. I think it might have been like under 3,200. And for that, in the terms of this ETF, that was $20. So really, right after July 4, after you put down that hot dog, that was a buy. It gave you really a month and change to look at it. We talked about it here on the show from May 12th to honestly July 12th. Basing did nada. And hopefully you bought it. And again, above 50 RSI trading is what you want to see. People aren't liquidating it. Different market environments we went through there in the summer. And Vamush went higher. Again, to sum up, if you get in at 31 in about 2 weeks, I think it's possible. Get in and load the boat. Next. If you have a ticker or something, put it in the chat. A lot of stuff moved today. Next one, regional banks. A big move up nearly 5%. Of course, they bought the Russell rate cuts, and then you see regional banks up nearly 5%. And look at this. So very similar to what we were saying about Ethereum. I'm comparing in a way Ethereum to regional banks. The 200-day moving average, this thing's been basing. You could have bought essentially this KRE at $63 going back to July 3rd, and now here we are at 65. We're essentially as high as we've been since February. So we're at 6-month highs. And your support technically is right there at $60. This one did have a tough time here to begin the month of August. This was actually trading for a week below its 200-day moving average. This is going to be very correlated with the Russell. Russell's obviously a lot of small cap, and it is small cap, made up of a lot of energy and financials. I personally just wouldn't chase this one over the next 2 weeks. If you can get an entry around 61 even, I would much rather that. Great looking candle. It looks like it wants to get to that 66 range. I'm not so sure. Again, IWM is not even at a 52 week high. It probably will, soon enough. So people are chasing that trade. I personally would not want to enter KRE. We're talking about here regional banks for about like 2 weeks or so. And it's about 61. If you're a breakout trader, then you have some room here. I think it's got a little bit of traffic to get to 65.5. I think there's better trades out there than that. And then next, this is very, very close with the Russell, but this one actually registered a pure multiple standard deviation move. This is the Russell value, very, very close with IWM, but this is IWN, so a little bit different of a tilt. This is a little bit more into the banks. So this one, exactly like I said, this one's actually at an 8-month high after 200-day moving average is just starting to base. It's still going, just starting going up by about a penny a day. This had a monster move today, up 4 and called a 1/3%. Similar to what I said about the other stuff, I just don't want to chase it here. I'd much rather, maybe sit this part out for, next 2 weeks. Had been saying small caps, talked about it on the chart report on Spaces So this is an easy trade. Every squirrel will get a nut in this market. Apple, Intel, AMD. I mean, AMD hasn't been that bad, but there's pretty much every squirrel is getting a nut, and small cap is the one here. Right around that 164 level. That in about 2 weeks. And it could be tariff news, it could be whatever. We don't predict it. Okay. Same thing when we said Bitcoin, what's going to send it almighty down to about 112K or Palantir. It just happens. Technicals are technicals. It's just, when a raindrop falls on your head, you don't argue. Just get the umbrella. You're not smarter than it. Okay. Losers of the day. This is not even a weekly move. This is the daily move. And we're going to start right here. And this is amazing. VXX. So this is an all-time low. Okay. To do obviously with the way this is constructed as well in terms of the futures, but this short-term futures, this VXX. But just the understanding that we're at all-time highs in SPY and you're at all-time lows in the volatility process means you have to take into account what zero DTEs have done to volatility comprehension and trading and processing in terms of the market. In terms of the regime and looking at the chart of VXX, this thing has been absolutely crap. And you can combine that with being a lazy trader, like I said, for S&P, buying that breakout in June. If you saw VXX, we entered purely a different regime. Folks weren't scared about the Trump tweets or all that stuff. Right as of June 24th, I think there was also like a Fed announcement that time too. This really started falling out of bed. The whole fear period, I look at it through a 50 RSI, trading above or below in VXX, ended at the end of April. That's when the fear had really gone. That was 3 weeks after the U.S. 52-week lows. And now you have a 200-day moving average at 49. That 36 here, we've been calling for a new 52-week low. That is a new all-time low. So now what if you happen to want to trade it? Well, this one I'm not going to say, don't chase to the upside because this thing's tanking. No, I think this has a bounce over the next 2 weeks to about, 40.5, which is 4.5 points. So about a 10% increase in volatility. So basically what it lost, almost today, I think maybe it picks up over the last 2 weeks. But look at this. This is oversold environment in VXX. Truly, it's it's not new lows, but it's still sub 30. I like that. It means in a way, folks are selling puts saying, no, I don't need the protection. I'm good here. Folks love, and this is the way I interpolated what the market extracted from what Powell said. We're getting rate cuts. The housing supply may ease. Folks are going to be able to, afford stuff, so on and so forth. Industrials were hitting highs. A lot to like in many frames from what happened today. So if you're bullish, you were on the right side of the tape. Back to VXX, like I said, thing probably goes to 40. If you buy puts, this looks ugly. The low is 35.91, and they close at 9 cents off the low. I'd have to do a Fibonacci retracement to see where the next low is. It's probably like 30 in weeks time. But overall, in the next 2 weeks or so, it probably has a small bounce to about 40. But volatility is out of the market. It's actually one of the worst trades this week. And when we do the weekly recap, let's keep moving. When Powell talks about rate cuts, your dollar takes a dump in your pocket. Today, that was a big move. When the dollar moves 1%, that's what your mommy has in her pocket. That is a big move. The dollar looks like crap, and it really has ever since March 4th. Really, it absolutely fell off. I'm looking at UUP, very soon, similar to the and then the Bloomberg one. So July 1st was this ETF at 2680. It got absolutely pummeled today, down 1%. You see the 200-day moving average, my God, basically in heaven at 2840. I know it's like, it's only a point. This is a UUP with a super low ATR average to range. It's about 17 cents a day or so. So it doesn't move. I think this has a decent, week and a half or so. Obviously, it's a losing asset, the thing that's in your pocket. And that's why people tell you to buy it, including me. I think this has a bounce over the next week and a half or so to about 2780, the top of that Bollinger Band. It stays inside of those July highs. And that's about it for the dollar for now. Okay. And then next, we had a viewer call on this yesterday. The question was, I said, I don't think so. Don't like the action. It literally just had a 52-week low. The prior day, I said this one looks like it's going to have an 11 handle soon. And this one had a multiple standard deviation move today, down 4% to new all-time lows. That 1189 is a new all-time high. Let me go max. This is a messed up ETF. It's not the greatest proxy, but that's ridiculous. In 2008, this was $8,100. Obviously, there's a split adjustment issue here. But we'll look at 1 year because that data is valid. Nat gas peaked on March. Remember, we said there's definitely a spot for this in your portfolio. It peaked in March and then really had some hard times when the U.S. SPY market was having its 52-week lows right here. This thing was still trading above its 200-day moving average, and finally it hit the road here through mid-June, and then really you see that off the stairs. So going back to my user question, I think it bases, tries to put in a floor here right around possibly as low as 11.5. When you have all-time lows in VXX and all-time highs in SPY, they're not going to rush to pick up stuff like natural gas. Yes, we want things that have value, like value and Ethereum and regional banks. But nat gas, I'm not. When I talk about every squirrel gets a nut, it's different in terms of commodities because they don't have earnings. It's a little bit different. And does Ethereum have earnings? No, but people are cracked out and need yield, and the thing goes up 80% a year. The bounce on this next, probably in nat gas, takes you to about, it's going to go lower and lower. The sequential rallies in this are going to be more and more garbage. So I think the rally in this next time takes you to just about $12.95 or about $1 from here, about 8% rally. You're going to have to be patient. It probably takes about 2 to 3 weeks. Again, all-time low. So if you're calling for a bounce in that, it's like you're a 20-year-old kid spelling cat. It's not really super impressive. Okay. Top 3 gainers of the past 5 days. How are we doing on time? All right. Boopity bop. Top 3 gainers of the past 5 days. Here we go. Ethereum, number 1 in the form of ETHA. We looked at this earlier. It had the best day of any ETF, 1X. It had the best week. And it's having the second best year of any ETF. Ethereum is the girl at the prom, and everyone it's like City Sweeney, I guess, of the moment is Ethereum, absolutely crushing it. Maybe you'll see Ethereum in a Abercrombie and Fitch ad. Maybe Ethereum's wearing jeans right now and bringing it back. Overall, like I said, I don't want to just chase it right here. I think it probably has 31 in its future. Maybe like a City Sweeney, the Lindsay Lohan moment. I don't know what brought her downfall. Alcohol or something? The kids today don't drink. I don't know. Anyway, I see this being at 31 sooner than later, potentially in about 2-ish weeks, and that's going to be your entry into one of the absolute stars. They ripped it up this week to the upside, up 10%. On the week I'm seeing it because here was 5 days ago, so there's some zigs and some zags. But the number 1 gainer, Ethereum. Number 2. This is interesting. It was ASHR. So ASHR is one of the China ETFs, one of the less liquid ones. You could see here, it's the less traded ones as well. But FXI, KWEB, even EM, they performed well. But this ASHR one really, really did well. And I use this as a proxy for many Asian ETFs. We looked at it before the stock show yesterday. A lot of ADRs were in focus, PDD, Billy, so on and so forth. So right here for ASHR had a big day, up 3%, but the week it's up 6% on the week. So a monster for China, and this thing is getting very close back to the October highs of last year when she was announcing that the stimulus, and it sent it back up. It was 35.72, and it's about 10%. Obviously, it wants to get there. Market, this looks very, very good. And 200 days right back here at 27. I personally wouldn't chase it here. I think this just a foot off the gas potentially, although beautiful looking candle. So animal spirits for everything is saying it's a little bit higher. So I'm probably wrong short term, and then medium term, like in 2-ish weeks, this is about 29.5, and I love that for an entry point into China. As I said, China does have earnings. You may not believe them because it might be fake news, but every squirrel gets a nut, and that is a good one. And then the next one is KRE, up 5% this week. So you have Ethereum up 10, ASHR of China up 6, and regional banks up 5. That's what crushed it this week. We already talked about this in the opening of the show. Regional banks, not only an amazing day, but an amazing week, third best after Ethereum and ASHRs, and now regional banks. Let's look at the losers. We've already been talking about some of the losers. Natural gas, the worst ETF in all of the land. If you were long nat gas this week, I'm sorry. It was the Loserville Limp Bizkit shout out, but it was Loserville, the worst ETF you could be in, down 7% this week, 4% of that coming from today. We already talked about the chart. Yeah, probably a bounce coming to about 12.95 in this over 2 to 3 weeks, maybe 12.75, and then probably lower after that. Trends are in place. I'm not going to be first to collect a falling knife upon my forehead. Number 2, loser of the past 5 days. We talked about this one as well, to a new all-time low. So UNG, new all-time low. Loser of the week. VXX right behind it, down 7% on the week. So again, there were some zigs and zags. It was here, and then now percent today. So much of it was from today. This is VXX, as I said, probably a 10% bounce over the next 2 to 3 weeks. And then there you go for that. And then you really had to zoom. It was hard to lose money this week from the long side. I had to zoom in again. Nat gas, no earnings. Volatility, no earnings. The next one I had to look at was an ETF I honestly had never seen before. Was this thing called BAI. It's an AI ETF, and honestly, not even that much trading history for me. This thing looks like it trades a couple shares a day. Anyway, it's an ETF fund, and that's the next thing I have to see. It was down 3% this week. So some active tech ETFs had been slipping, but this one, Ishares, AI Innovation and Tech Active, it peaked on August 13th, and it has had. I'm not even going to bother you and pull up what is this invested in. We probably all guess what AI names, but this is so illiquid. But it was, the point is, there was almost nothing. IGV was the next one, but it was less than 2.5% on the week. So really a lot of strength. And if you were in Ethereum, China, regional banks, you really experienced it head on. And if you were on the long side of Nat Gas or you were long puts, not the way to go. Not the way to go. All right. Next thing, and we close out here. My favorite part, super informative. And I made a little bit of a change with this. This is top 3 trades of the past 52 weeks. I always try to keep these as non-correlated as possible to really give you the best trades, get into all of them, and don't worry about the allocation because they're so in line with the other. But it's getting a little bit difficult because we have money and the price speaks. So the year-over-year return, no change in that. Let's take a look at it because we haven't mentioned it yet on the show. Is IBIT 93% year over year? Okay, so from last August 22nd through today, this IBIT is up 93%. This thing bottomed last right around Labor Day. If you remember, you could have had a chance to buy this at $30. Okay, it was trading much at $31 a day. Today we're at $66. It peaked on August 13th at nearly $70. Here we are today. Beautiful handle put in 2 days ago. In terms of a near short-term setup, dude, I would give this, obviously, as I always say on the weekend show, and pretty much a lot, watch how crypto trades into the weekend. I say give this a couple more days to base. I think you're going to want to be in IBIT like mid next week. They're obviously doing the Ethereum and the big catch-up trade. I think give this some time to base around 63. If you can get in under 66, I love it. And the target is, I believe, getting very close to most likely new all-time highs sometime in September. I'm looking at a $70 target for this. So you could do the 66-70 call spread. You can, maybe do the 68 calls, maybe the 65 calls. You can sell the 63 puts, and then look at the liquidity and look at the how long you would be in the trade, right? But I think this is going to base next week. I wouldn't be shocked if it trades maybe down to $63, $64. And I love that entry. You can almost see a rectangle here of it basically basing here, putting in from July 14th. We're just stuck in between 70 and about 63, like 11% range there. It's going to do a little bit more pong. S&P hitting all-time highs, volatility hitting all-time lows, folks. Year Bitcoin, nah, pass. This RSI, it trucked under 50 for a little bit. Makes me think that folks are looking at someone, something else besides. But I do think IBIT looks poised to reclaim its all-time highs. Can you see? Hold on, I'm getting an unstable connection. Test. Are we on? Yes. All right. I'm having some errors today for whatever reason, but okay. So that was IBIT. I don't have anything else to say. What I was talking about before about keeping this, not the crypto show, but it's hard not to. 85%. So this thing is just on the tail of IBIT, on the altar of essentially of IBIT. Why? Because Ethereum is right there right now, And there was no 50 or 47 RSI trading 3 days ago in ETHA. So they are lining up to buy this thing right now. There's a lot of folks into this right now, obviously. Again, I would probably stake this out personally. It probably does go a little bit higher, maybe like 38, 39, see what it does, Saturday morning and such. But I personally would love an entry if you're patient around 31, maybe 31, half, something like that in about 2-ish weeks. That is your number 2 leader year over year. You obviously don't have to go full tilt, allocate it to IBIT and ETH because they're both, crypto, but I do think it makes sense to be in both. And the number 3, because some invest in crypto directly like that, and adopt Kathy Wood's ultra futuristic ETF, the ARK ETF. Excuse me. This is number 3 in returns here, year over year, up 73%. So when you're talking about IBIT or Bitcoin and Ethereum or ETHA, you got to consider ARK in terms of returns. It does it in an entirely different way. She's in Roblox and Tesla and I think PayPal and all this other stuff. This basket, since we'll do technical analysis on this to close up the show, peaked on July 21st at $79 and then a quick fall to $71. This thing's very volatile. And this had, a small flirtation here with 46 RSI. And then now a nice bounce back. Of course, they're going to rip this one up 4%. Also, I want to admit this was the best performing ETF during Trump's first administration. And sometimes old habits die very hard. And that's just kind of reason alone of having, policy administration that's supportive of it. And this thing's still in vogue. The flows have not looked, the only thing I'll say is the flows have not looked tremendous since August 6th. And what I mean by that is the closes. There has not been a rush by institutionals or large money managers to buy this upon the close. They've been, kind of fading. And that's why you see taller wicks, on the top of these candles here, reverse wicks here. But beautiful hammer here. They stepped in on the 12th. They stepped in beautifully on the 20th. I think this probably has a sideways to, somewhat lower 2 weeks. I personally would love if you can get in this at around 72, because I do think the next target is right around $78 to $80, and then call spreads scream out to me at that point. All right. So there you go. Year over year, dude, get involved, ladies, gentlemen. Be in Bitcoin, be in Ethereum. I wouldn't chase Ethereum right here. Bitcoin, I think, is setting up lovely. ARK, give it about 2 weeks or so. And that's setting up too. There's a lot to like here in the market. The market absolutely loved what Powell had to say. Let's see how crypto trades into the weekend and enjoy this last 2 Saturdays or so before summer ends. Summer scaries, but no scaries in the market.